your startup across the globe. In the past 5 years, I've worked for and with various startups across the globe. As an English as a second language teacher, I've been fascinated to watch cultures interact, see businesses grow, and be part of a global ecosystem that didn't exist for quite some time. With the fast rise of the internet along with instant universal connection, the ability to scale a startup has brought both tremendous growth and opportunity. According to a recent report from Bloomberg, capital raised in 2017 falls into the following categories, all of which have a digital and vast scalable component: online security and fraud detection, artificial intelligence, autonomous driving, augmented reality, smart sensors, drones, digitization of education. Given this tremendous growth, I wanted to learn more about global startups, how they scale, the challenges they face, and how they overcome cultural challenges. In this interview, I had the chance to talk with Eugene Levin, Semrush Chief Strategy Officer, to learn more about scaling a startup across the globe. Why did you decide to expand outside of US, and how did that process go for you? When you start in the US, it's always hard to decide to expand to other markets because your core market is so huge. Europe was the first part of our expansion strategy. Europe always generated a significant portion of our revenue, so it was only a question of time. As a bootstrapped company, we had to wait until our revenue from specific markets became big enough for a dedicated office. However, it was evident from day one that we would eventually open a new sales and marketing office there. We opened offices in Prague and Cyprus a couple of years ago, and now we have about 50 people there. At first, it was a significant investment for us, but now we see that it was necessary to continue growing in those regions. Also, we discovered that some smaller markets are much less competitive, and by focusing on such markets we managed to work with them quickly. The second stage of our expansion strategy had a global presence. In Q1 2017, we launched databases for 100+ new markets efficiently covering most of the world. As a result, now long-tail markets grow faster than any of our major markets. And once those markets became big enough, we hired dedicated sales and marketing people. For example, now we are hiring people for India and Brazil markets. I think our example shows that geo-expansion can be an excellent strategy if done right. Today, we are quite global. We even have customers in one tiny country with a population of fewer than 1,000 people. From your perspective, please tell me about the global startup ecosystem. What does that look like from a high level? To have a robust startup ecosystem, you need a few things to find success. It seems like these requirements are not very high, but still, we have just a couple of well-established startup hubs. Lack of ecosystem and structure can lead to unfair capital distribution. Also, better companies with stronger products don't often have access to the capital required for scaling the business. The good news is that in many SaaS markets you can reach 5 meters or just with a reliable product and a small team of fewer than 10 people. Once you have this kind of traction, it's easier to get funding. If we look closer at essential hubs, they didn't change during the last 10 years. Silicon Valley is still by far number one. Other good hubs in the US include New York, Boston, and even smaller cities like Boulder, Colorado. All of these places are great for its startups. Israel is probably the second most crucial startup hub. They don't have a big domestic market and always do international business. Then we have London and Berlin. London used to be number one in Europe, but with all upcoming Brexit issues, Berlin will probably dominate Europe's startup scene soon. Also, China is now part of the startup hub scene. And by many parameters, China should be on top of the list. I wouldn't recommend that entrepreneurs build a company in China unless they have years of experience and know the language. What are 4 questions founders should ask before launching a global startup? There are always risks related to any specific business model. For example, many fintech startups face regulatory risks when they try to scale globally. It may take hours to discuss all such risks. There are also risks that are very common for all types of businesses. These business issues can put you in a position where you must depend on external capital. For this reason, this is how many founders end up owning only a fraction of their company if they are lucky to get extra funding. If they are not lucky, they may run out of business. It can be even more disturbing because investors can push founders to scale faster when they are not ready. And, as a result, investors gain more